Let's do some team building and talk about some free agents for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll do all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, everybody? Thank you for joining me, Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast, where it's your team every day, and we thank you for making us your first listen. A quick reminder, we're free to subscribe to on our YouTube page that is Locked On Jaguars. Make sure when you get there, you hit the like button, subscribe, and then hit that bell so you get notifications each and every time we drop an episode. Also, wherever you listen to podcasts at, make sure you tap in to that location every single day so you don't miss an episode. That's right. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com and use Locked On to get $20 off your order. That's JASE medical.com. And shout out to the everydayers for joining us every day. You could be an everyday too if you join me every day. All right, so this is a part of the year that I actually keep my eye on all season, believe it or not. I'm a draftnik. I'm probably a bigger draftnik than I am anything else. But I just know that nobody wants to talk about the draft. And I know this from experience here in Jacksonville that as long as you have a chance of still accomplishing something, nobody wants to talk about it and look forward to when you actually get to the free agency and the draft of next season, because you're focusing all of your energy and your hope and your optimism on what you're looking at right in front of you, right? So I said all year that I probably wouldn't do that, and it's been hard because at least twice a week for a couple of hours a week, I sit here and I make phone calls and I go over and I look at guys and I watch how they perform on Saturdays, and then I come in here and try to break a little bit of their film down, not a whole bunch of their individual film. And I don't just watch highlight tapes. What I'll do is go watch a whole game and just zero in on that person. So it can be a real painstaking process. But, you finally get to let all of that stuff out, right? And I also do it a little bit too with impending free agents from other teams. It's a little bit more difficult. Both of them are difficult. And the reason why it's difficult is because you never know if a guy wants to leave, and then you got to compete with the rest of the league, what they're going to ask for in terms of money. And that's free agency. Now in the draft, you could sort of start pinpointing a little bit and getting it down to who you think can help you. And I look at both of them differently. We're going to go through that. So we're going to talk about T-Wigs team building in the first segment, free agents we like in the second segment. I know y'all can't wait to get that one, and the difference between draft and free agency. So I'm going to explain a little bit of that right now. With free agency, it is like, that's where, to me, when you have a whole, we're not talking about quarterbacks. Quarterback is a whole different animal. If you have a quarterback you're committed to, then this is an easier process for you to understand. But free agency, that's immediate help. That's where you look at your roster, you look at a whole, and you go bang. And it's easier to do that. That's why you're paying them a lot of money. It's because you have seen them, what's my 2 favorite words? Demonstrated performance at the actual level where you're going to be paying them to do it for you. And you just got to vet them personally to make sure when they get money, they don't start screwing it up and think that they've arrived. You have to look at where they are in their careers and what their expectations are and all of that stuff. Then in the draft, it's a little bit differently. In the draft, I still think within reason you go best player available, because that's a guy, especially in the first round, you're going to have him for 5 years. And it might not be a hole where you draft him, but one might be created 2 years from now. And we're going to get to that as soon as I start talking about a couple of these guys, and I'll tell you exactly what my thought process is. But in any event, that's the way that I do this. I do it a little bit differently. I don't try to have a consensus. I don't try to go be right. And I don't go out of my way to try to be different and wrong or the smartest guy in the room from everybody else and what they do. But it's pretty simple when you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Interior of both lines. You have to be able to win the line of scrimmage before you could do anything else. That's why when people sit here and say, why are you making so many shows about Trevor Lawrence when you know that he is not the main culprit? And they did have a poor interior offensive line in terms of power and being able to move people. And that has a big effect on the game. It's not about just the individual plays that work or don't work. It's about the cumulative effect of somebody busting you in your face all game and knowing that when it comes time, when it gets down to it in the fourth quarter, that they can lean on you a little bit. And the Jaguars just can't do that. And that's a whole facet of their game. When was the last time you seen the Jaguar games and at the end of the game, it looked like they just wore the other team out? Now flip it around. How many times have you seen the Jaguars just look completely worn out? And that's the point that I'm trying to make, that it's not about the individual plays, but it's more about the mentality and the attitude of the team. So everyone knows that they need that. I think the Jaguars need a catch radius wide receiver. I'm not talking about a guy like Zay Jones that can make some difficult catches. I'm talking about a guy that every time you turn around and you throw the ball to him, he has got a chance to go up and get it when a whole bunch of other people don't. Those are beyond the X's and O's plays that will help Trevor Lawrence. And the reason why, by the way, I blame Trevor Lawrence for a lot of stuff is because even though he was missing all of these things, they finagled their way into being able to be in a lot of these games. The Jaguars got blown out maybe twice, maybe 3 times all year. But other than that, they were right there knocking on the door. And when it came time to make plays, he didn't make them. So that's why I blame him, because despite or in spite of the fact that they had a porous offensive line, they were in a lot of games and he had some overthrows that he shouldn't have had, or some boneheaded mistakes. Those things have to be alleviated for this team to be elevated to a champion. So maybe that'll explain it to you, that there could be more than one thing wrong at the same time. I'm going to get into these free agents. What I want to do is go out early here. Go out early here and not really take a break, but I want you to gear yourself up for what's coming, because it's going to be a little bit different. I'm not like everybody else, and I'm telling you. I'm a firm believer in you may have a guy at a certain position, but when I almost treat it like I'm a new guy taking over a team. And I don't sit here and try to get all biased about it. I look at it as if I'm a new guy taking over a team. So I'm warning y'all right now, that's what it's going to look like. There's going to be some people that I say need to get out of here, or that you need to move on from, that most folks won't agree with. And you know what? That's fine with me, because I am me and I'm going to do it my own way. So we'll get right to that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. If you've been in a tough situation for a lot of different reasons, it could be divorce, it could be death in the family, it could be a number of things. There's a lot of times in life, man, you just lose your way a little bit. And the hardest thing to do is to get yourself out of it. You don't have to do any of those things. BetterHelp is here for you, man. BetterHelp, if you want counseling, if you need therapy, sponsor by BetterHelp today here on Locked On Jaguars. And I'm telling you, it has helped me, and it could help you also. Sometimes you just need the opportunity to get something off your chest, big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you. It's important that you let it out. Therapy can be different for everyone. Most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports team, and it's important to get things off your chest once in a while. So what you need to do, man, is this. It's entirely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. So you got to visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first purchase. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. It's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. It's completely online, designed to be flexible and suited to your schedule. All right, checking in here on Locked On Jaguars. Ready to give you what I believe is going to really, really help y'all and set y'all free. Some of y'all anyway. It's going to help you and set you free. I'm giving you some free agents that you need to hope that the Jaguars go their way. And I'll explain each and every one of them. So we're talking about the interior of the offensive line. That's what I'll address right away. I think it needs to improve. I don't think you need to be fooling around with rookies. So I'm gonna get a guard and a center in free agency. The guys that I think they should go after. Lloyd Cushenberry is a center. He ain't great, but he's really, really solid and good out in Denver. I think Denver's gonna be a little bit strapped cap wise. Lloyd Cushenberry is a very, very good player. Uh, I think he gets the job done, and he would actually help this team immediately at that center position. It doesn't mean like you're giving up on Luke Fortner, yeah, a little bit, but he's under a rookie deal or whatever, and you can just use the next couple of years to see what he has, or if he could be a swing piece for you, because there's a lot of guys that need to be swing pieces on this team. Guys that are under the first contracts, you can make those guys swing players. You can make them bench and depth guys. Uh, Luke Fortner would be pretty much in the same situation or close to it that Walker Little is. So there you go. Um, Unfortunately, at right guard, Brandon Sheriff, he's not been terrible, but I don't think he's been great. Just tell me this: name the last time you said Brandon Sheriff was really whooping the hell out of that dude over there. Just like you can't say necessarily that Brandon Sheriff is the reason why Trevor Lawrence is running for his life, because the numbers, the advanced metrics say that that's not true. But I can challenge you that you can also probably not find very many moments where you can say Brandon Sheriff is really dominant, right? Like, or they can run right behind Brandon Sheriff and get this touchdown on the 1 yard line. The inside the 5 yard line, I'd run it behind Brandon Sheriff 4 times. When's the last time you heard somebody say that? If you had Robert Hunt from Miami, 6'6", 335 pounds of a whole bunch of nasty, and that's another team that's strapped salary cap wise, that can't re-sign everybody, then that's the way you go. So therefore, you can look at it like this: if you're going to leave Anton Harrison at right tackle, who better to have next to him than a big bodyguard like Robert Hunt, and then have Lloyd Cushenberry as your center? And the Jaguars can pull that off. They'd have to, of course, this is a situation where Sheriff wouldn't be here. You'd move on from him. And I know there are some people that say, why don't you just keep Sheriff? Is this Jawan Taylor all over again? Why don't you just keep Sheriff and just add a left guard? Because I don't want to. That's why I want to do it this way. And yeah, that's pretty much what I've been looking at and things that I would do. So what this leaves is a potential hole at left guard. Do they bring back Ezra Cleveland? I don't know. It depends on what the tape that I haven't watched says and what his number's going to be. You could bring him back. He could be a better player than it looks like, because you change the center and the guard around him, and then you'd have Cam Robinson back for a full training camp. So there's a chance that he probably looks okay. But like I said, it depends what his number is. Me personally, I probably go into the draft looking to replace him with a rookie left guard, because I think there are a bunch of them that are day one starters. Some of them play tackle right now. The Barton kid out of Duke, as well as a kid out of TCU, they're both about 6'4", between 315 and 320. They played left tackle, but they project at playing inside. And then that gives you a little positional versatility too. I remember David Deal played right tackle, and then he played left guard for the New York Giants when they won the Super Bowl. So it'll give you a little bit of positional versatility. But I wouldn't draft him just because of that. That would have to be a plus. I would make sure that whoever I plant at left guard can play left guard. I think Cedric Van Pran can play left guard and can play center out of Georgia. So that gives you some more versatility too. Don't really like guys that I draft for tackle to say that you can move them around. I want tackles to be tackles, and left is just left or right. But guards, I love guards that can play tackle, and guards that can play center, or centers that can play guard. I think it's a great thing. Tackles, I want them to just be real good tackles. So those are two of the guys that I looked at that I really, really like for the Jaguars. And let's just say that they get them and they can shore up the interior of their defense. We're not going to forget, the offensive line. We're not going to forget about the defense, but we're not necessarily going to address defensive tackle. I know that Justin Madubuike is going to be there. I had some money that works in the scouting industry that crossed paths at some point with Trent Baalke, and they know him very well, and they told me he's not going to like him. He says, wait and see. I said, well, the dude, he ain't that small. He's 6'3". He says, he ain't going to like him. I'm telling you, I've been around him. I know he's not going to like that kind of guy. So My homeboy, he'll hold me dinner too if he's wrong about this. But Chris Jones is also going to be a premium if he's allowed to hit the market. I don't know if he will or not. It looks like a guy that to me that needs to retire a Kansas City Chief, but he's another one. You always got to take a look at dynamic playmakers and guys like that when you get them. Even if you don't think you can get them, and if you don't think that they can come here, they would come here. You still take a good hard look at those guys, and it's worth it. It's going to cost you a lot of money. It's going to cost you a boatload of money to get guys like that. But for the case of the sake of this, we're going to ignore that part of it, and we're going to say we can address that in the NFL draft. But what I would go and do is I think the Jaguars need to look real hard at their corners. Now, this doesn't mean that their corners haven't been good. I want to be very clear. This is about how I want to play. How I said this is T Wig's list, how I would want to play. I would go and try to get Chris Jones' teammate, Ladarius Sneed. I don't think it's going to cost you the kind of money that it would cost you to get what you would consider a normal franchise corner. But Sneed is lengthy, he's nasty, he's mean, and I've been wanting to say this for a while, but he would go the other day and jam up Tyreek Hill and put tape out for everybody to see before I had a chance to make that point. But make no mistake about it, Ladarius Sneed is the real. Ladarius Sneed, he's a real deal. He is the real deal. He can really, really play, man, and he's the kind of guy. That's how I want to play. I want to play like that. I want to play like Charvarius Ward. This is where you might be able to get some currency for Tyson Campbell. And I remember when Tyson Campbell was drafted, there was some talk that they would play him in a big slot and use his size to rush the passer a little bit, kind of the way you see Humphrey up in Baltimore doing right now. So it depends really who they get to be their coordinator also and how they're going to employ their players. This also might mean the end of it for Mr. Williams on the outside, Darius Williams, because he's shown that he's not really a slot guy. If he can play the slot, then fine. Or if he can play man to man, we've seen him do that before too. It depends what they decide to do with Tyson Campbell. If I say I want to go get Ladarius Sneed, then they're gonna have to figure something out. My last one that I'll use on defense. So much talk about edge rushers, right? Like, how can you allocate? You're not going to bench either one of the dudes you have right now. Trayvon is a type. He's gotten a lot better, and he's also a type. He adds a certain thing to your team. The same thing I was talking about with Robert Hunt. This is what Trayvon Walker kind of does on the other side, just a little bit differently. But you want the Jaguars to be more physical. You can't bench their most physical player, in my opinion, and use him as depth piece. He's a starter. A lot depends on what they do with Josh Allen. I think for the sake of this, they franchise tag him or re-sign him, either one. So both of them are there. You got to get a real good player, though. The only way you usually do it is drafting, because if you go out and get a real good player to be your third or your swing edge rusher, and you got to pay him, and maybe a guy wants to start, you got to get a dude that's used to being in that role. How about Dorrance Armstrong, who I've loved ever since he came out of Kansas State years ago for the Dallas Cowboys? He's in that role. You can pay him. You ain't got to break the bank for him. I'm thinking maybe a $7 million a year contract, but you sell him on this point. One, when we go to our even front, you'll never have to drop into coverage. And two, when we go to that front, 9 times out of 10, because it's passing down, we take Devon Hamilton out and we slide Trayvon Walker inside, and now you'll be side by side with him. So you're going to play 40% of the snaps, especially if we're able to get ahead. So those are the guys that, for me, my first look in the free agency. And I know what everybody's saying, well, you ain't got no wide receiver. Well, you ain't getting no defensive tackle. You're right, I didn't, because you can't get everything. You can't get everything in free agency, but that's what I would focus on. And to me, this is my opinion, Robert Hunt, Lloyd Cushenberry, Jerry Sneed, along with Dorrance Armstrong. Those are the guys that I said, man, I really like those dudes, and they would add a lot to this team. And Armstrong really will. He's 26, 27 years old, long, 6'4", 255-ish, a pure 4-3 type pass rusher that gives you a lot of activity on that side of the ball. So that's what I do with that. And what I do now is let you know that we got a third segment coming up, and I'm going to explain the difference between draft and free agency. And if I get these guys, I'll tell you some guys that I really, really like in the draft and why I view the draft the way that I do. I'll do it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man. It's all about Jase Medical, man. That's the sponsor for today's show. And if you heard me earlier, you would know that Jase Medical gives you 5 different antibiotics, 5 different types of antibiotics, just in case of an emergency, because we have a whole lot of emergency situations around here. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs. I just experienced one myself, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among others. This stuff could happen to any of us. As you know, it happened to me. I felt like Forrest Gump or the Green Mile, that the warden sitting there, up all night long with my stomach hurting. So visit Jase Medical and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacist at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to jasemedical.com and use offer code locked on to get $20 off your order. It's Jase, Jase medical.com. Use the promo code locked on to get 20% off your order. And I got to let you know about the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America, and that is PrizePicks. Man, all you got to do is pick between 2 and 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. That's right. And PrizePicks, man, you're not playing against sharks. You're not playing against pros. It's just you, the information, and the system. And I know you can beat that. It offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday, Prize Pick discounts, select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. All you got to do, man, is go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use the code lockedonnfl for a first deposit match up to $100. Like I said, go to prizepicks.com/lockedonnfl and use the code lockedonnfl in all lowercase for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, third and final segment here, Locked On Jaguars. Talking about team building, T. Wiggs team building. All right, so I already gave it a little bit of it. If it's up to me, they franchise tag or re-sign. I re-sign Josh Allen. I wouldn't even play around with the tag. I create a situation where I have some more cap flexibility. And the dude has absolutely earned it on and off the field here in Jacksonville. So go ahead and pay Josh Allen. Robert Hunt, it will probably cost me a little bit, cost me to move on from Brandon Scherf. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me. Y'all don't want to be bored about the cap, but you can make it a pre or post June. I think a post June first designation and save a little bit of money on that. But you're upping the player. You're getting a better player. I think you're getting a better player that has more of an impact on what your team looks and feels like. And I think that's so important. Ladarius Sneed. Let me see. You know what? I keep calling this dude. I know a guy named Ladarius, and I know a guy named Lajarius, right? So I got to make sure it's Lajarius with a J. All right. It's Lajarius Sneed. And I got to make sure I ain't talking about my client here. Yeah, it's Lajarius Sneed. Good corner, real good corner. But like I said, this is also a mood. This is also a mood changing pick. This is a defensive changer here. This is what gives you a good player that also does more than just play his spot. He changes the complexion and changes how you're viewed and how you play and how you compete on a daily, on a down by down basis. Dorrance Armstrong, I think, is underrated, but he's right there where you can pay him a little bit of underrated money, but give him a bigger role and put some incentives in the contract so he can be your third edge rusher on this team. Starter, kind of like starter quality, but not enough to be invasive, but still enough competition. A better player, I believe, than Arden Key. A better, more complete player than Arden Key. Robert Hunt, Lloyd Cushenberry. Lloyd Cushenberry is a center who plays with the Denver Broncos. Pretty good size. Obviously, they're all over 300 pounds. Is he a top 5 center? No. Is he somewhere between 6 and 13 or 14. Yep. And I think that's exactly what you need if you're Jacksonville Jaguars. And then you can double back and draft a guy who's versatile enough to be able to give you some competition where in 2 or 3 years, if you want to move on from Cushenberry and go with the young guy for salary cap purposes, you can do it. So it's Robert Hunt, Cushenberry, Snead, and Doris Armstrong. Now, the difference between free agency and the draft, I don't believe in drafting projects, but I also don't believe in using the draft to just pick a spot guy to put on your team. The draft is where you get a chance to get better. And if you don't pick them, you got to play them. So while you're trying to fill a spot, there's no way I'm going to let a player who's better, who I project to be better, go to another team, especially in my division, and I got to play him because I was trying to fill a square in. Because that's, to me, that's what you do in free agency. The difference is you know exactly what you're getting in free agency and draft. You're trying to project. You got to teach them. They got to learn. You don't know how they're going to respond when they start getting hit in the NFL. Nobody ever does. So that's a little bit of a difference. So that's why you take the absolute best player you can. And right where the Jaguars are picking, I'm not going to do any trades. I'm thinking 17. If they're picking 17, I know where the value is for me in this draft. The good thing is you don't need a quarterback, right? Remember those things y'all were telling me that the Jaguars needed so bad, like interior defensive linemen? I wouldn't take a guard or a center at this spot because I think that the hot spot for them is right there in the second round with guys like Cooper Beebe, who can play left tackle. And he might not even be a second round pick, but all of that will start ironing itself out throughout the process. But I know that there are going to be a number of players the Jaguars can like. Some will fit their motto in terms of their size, and then some won't. But there will be some like Graham Barton, versatility, good size, can really, really play. On the defensive line, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. You're probably not going for Devontae Sweat type 3 technique or the Jazan Newton, who is very, very disruptive, though, and can really, really play. But I'm going to try this kid's name. It's not a first-round pick yet for me, but it's a second-round grade. His name is Rook Okorororo. I believe that's how you say it, from Clemson. Lord, let me explain something to you. He's not a nose tackle. He's not a 3 because Devon Hamilton, I believe, is going to be healthy next year. You're paying Roy Robinson Harris a bunch of money, so you got to get somebody who's productive that you don't have to pay a whole bunch. 6'4", 295 pounds, and can play anywhere along that defensive line, has the quicks and has the nasties, has strong hands, can really, really get after people. To me, that's not I'm not there yet on the first round pick. I just don't know if he's going to fall to you in the second round. And that's the thing that would absolutely scare the daylights out of me, because he jumps out at me as another one of those body types, the types that you want when you look up. Let's just say you look up on, if this kid is everything I think he is, and you line him, Josh Allen, Dorrance Armstrong, and take Trayvon Walker up. Now you start to take a 4-man front that sort of looks like San Francisco's a little bit, just in terms of its athleticism, its length, and its get after. And I really like players like that. But in the first round, I keep doing these mocks, and there's certain guys that keep sitting there that intrigue me. One's a group. It's a group of wide receivers, and there could be a number of guys. Roma Dooms ain't falling to 17. He ain't getting out of the top 10, in my opinion. I like his teammate Jalen Polk. I just don't like him in the first round. The guy that keeps falling, everybody, I'm a Florida State fan, and I wanted to see something more of Keon Coleman, but he got injured. But he is a guy that sort of reminds me of Des Bryant a little bit, so I wouldn't be mad at that. I am intrigued, though. I am intrigued with this Thomas kid. Malik Neighbors running mate at LSU. Brian Thomas Jr., he can flat out get after it. He can run. He catches with his hands. He eats the whole route tree up. He can go deep. He can catch a slant. Really, really watch him. Now, there's some people going to look at the uniform and say, doesn't he look a lot like DJ Chark? Ain't no DJ Chark. Trust me. This kid can flat out play. And Brian Thomas just keeps getting to that point. And I'm thinking like, damn, imagine him with Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley if they bring him back. This is what I'm talking about changing the dynamic of your team and changing what your team looks like. on the field. Um, I also like a corner, Nate Wiggins, and this makes sense whether they get L'Jarius Sneed or not. Even if they get him, then you get another dude at 6'2", 188, 190 pounds that's wiry. That to me becomes the most athletic player who thrives in man-to-man and who can make some plays and gives you a lot of that nasty and a lot of that competition that we have to talk about every single week when it comes to thinking of guys that can play these NFL receivers every single week. There's a powerful running back I really, really like, but I know everybody around here ain't going to want to get another running back in the third or fourth round. But if Breon Allen from Wisconsin slips and falls, I think he's another dude that gives you an attitude. And I don't think there's a short yardage situation or a goal line situation that if you have Robert Hunt and Cushenberry and Breon Allen on your team, that you're going to ever feel like you're not going to be able to make it. So that's just a brief outlook as to what I like and the guys that I like and a handful of guys. And I like a whole bunch of people, but these are the dudes that I wouldn't be lying to you for the last couple of months when I start writing stuff down. Those are the names that come up, and that's how I see the Jaguars trying to build a team. But I'm not Trent Baalke. So pray for us because I have no idea what Trent Baalke might be trying to do. I'll tell you what I'm trying to do, man. I'm trying to make sure I keep tapped into Locked On because we've launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. I'd be glad to hear your comments on this. I don't expect people to agree with me. I ain't gonna try to debate it because that ain't what I'm all about. This is how I feel. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what you do if you were the Jacksonville Jaguars in the comments or on social media. Take care, and we'll see you next time here on Locked On Jaguars.